Alright, I've just updated the response DB, but it doesn't have just with a bug fix because Earl tried to use it and it turned out it wasn't working. So some other changes that I had made and updates had caused a bug where it would not install in Chrome. So I fixed that. It occurs to me another thing with it. It was basically a packaging error of stuff that goes in there. Um, and so also, about a week ago or a week and a half ago, I noticed the server um, where the responses have to be stored. Most of the logic goes on in that browser extension, but it stores, and so by logic I mean, the thinking of the software. I've put a bunch of code that I've been writing in there, and I like now to make the like client software, not just a web page that says where to put stuff. And this is part of bringing the control back into the computer. In the old days you got a program and you ran it on your computer. Now everything's through the web. Well, you can, using the web, have the program still on the computer now, and that's what extensions are. I mean, in a way, all an extension really is the web resources you normally get dynamically from the web. Well, you just get them when it's updated. Except for anything that's live, like the actual responses to a particular video. And so those are stored on my server, and the server was down for about 24 hours. At first I thought it was rack space maintenance, but it wasn't. And so it'd be nice to have, I have a few people that are testing it now, but it'd be nice to have enough, well, there's a couple levels, but for me it would be nice if there was enough where people would notice those things like outages. Now that's sort of a critical mass. I mean, I'm developing it, and it just happened I wasn't testing it for one day. What did I do? There was something non-coding I did, and then now it was really useful that Earl had tried it out, because I'm taking a break from coding and I'm doing some writing, but uh, uh, but since there was this bug, I went ahead and took a break from that and fixed the bug. And it just occurs to me I'm going to add some links to the pop-up, because in my videos I posted the GitHub link, but I'm not sure. Or I know I posted a link to the web page where you can get to the GitHub, but I think I should make links to that in the little pop-up that you get when you click on the responder icon. So I guess another thing I was thinking about is that I've changed the name of the tool from Response DB, which I don't think really conveys what it's doing, to the responder. And as far as I'm concerned, those are working titles. For one thing, I really have this idea of structured conversation, where the structure could be loose, or the structure could be very organized and formal. If you were having a debate, a couple of candidates running for local office were having a debate, they might want it fairly structured. A couple of people just discussing something, they might not want much structure at all. But the structure tools that were there would still ensure that people could make responses. Those responses wouldn't go down the memory tubes. They would, the memory hole, they would sort of persist better. The conversation leaves a better trace for those who might want to follow that conversation. So that for those of you that have been on here for years, conversations that you had years ago, maybe you don't even want to have conversations on those topics. Maybe you talked it all the way out. Well, it'd be nice if there's a path, a record, that other people that are just entering into that are watching videos can follow. And I also think that that's an interesting way. That's a way I would like to figure out who to subscribe to if I see people involved, two, three, four, five, six people involved in a conversation. I feel like I get a feeling for whether I want to follow what they're currently saying, or whether I want to try out seeing what they're currently saying. I mean, often that's how I find a subscription. I'll find a video, maybe an old video, and I'll go, this was interesting, and then I'll subscribe and I'll wait till they come up with something new. And sometimes I find like, why am I subscribed to this person? And I won't even remember, but I do know that it was good. Well, because I saw something, I thought, well, worth a try. Um, Now the benefit to you guys, it's kind of a pain. Like I felt bad for Earl. He tried to install. Well, I didn't feel bad because Earl didn't act like it was a big deal. But I know I feel bad that just because, okay, he tried to install it and then there was an error. Useless to you. Really useful to me though. Bug reports. I mean, as a software engineer or programmer, you can fix anything if it's repeatable and you can see what's happening and go, oh, and then you fix it. But there's so many things that can be done in a piece of software that can happen in different machines that it's hard to see those things at all, much less making them repeatable. So very useful to me. So that's kind of the cost of being a tester. You might want the tool to work, or maybe nobody else is really using it, so it doesn't show you responses. You're there adding responses, and it's not, or actually, even if the software is super useful, all done feature wise, and you get all excited, hey, I'm going to use it, look, it's a word processor, and then you find out you're testing it and you lose some text because you really need to save often and make backups or whatever, because it's a test piece of testing. uh, uh, it's a testing artifact, right? It's not a real product. And so that's the cost, right? But the benefit is that the way this is based on years of work. I have a lot of code that I'm just going to roll in slowly, right? I'm not going to make a bunch of guesses about where stuff should go and what buttons we need, but I have a lot of underlying code that can support those kinds of buttons. For example, right? I have the code to read YouTube comments, right? And we're not doing that right now. And I've got a lot of code that we can use. Well, for example, this would be trivial because I did it before when I worked with the players, and I've worked with several kinds of video players. Poker Face Todd was saying the responses should be able to have a time code qualifier. So I haven't done that yet. I'm working on supporting open authorization, which means you'll be able to log in with anybody that offers OpenAuth, starting with Google, so that you can use your YouTube account. But in general, that'll allow, I mean, GitHub and Facebook. There's a bunch of Twitter, I think. They all support OpenAuth. You might have noticed the sites more and more are allowing you to have a little array of who you want to log in with. And so that's what I'm working on, or was working on until I took this break for writing. And so I can put in the timecode space for making a reply and specifying exactly what moment you meant to reply to, and I can have a little button by the reply that plays that part of the thing. And I imagine I'll get to that pretty soon after the OpenAuth thing, because it's so straightforward. And that's the benefit of if you partake in this process with me, is that you will get to have an influence on how the order in which we do things, and also ideas for doing things. But a lot of it is definitely the order, because we've talked a lot. Many people in this community have talked about the kind of tools we use and would like to have, and our complaints about the way the tool at YouTube, for example, is presented. People have gone off to other sites. They've had various results there, run into the same problems, different problems. And so it's kind of like there's a cloud of ideas out there. Now, pulling them together into a useful and pleasant or easy to use, fun to use tool is a kind of an art form. And a big part of that is You could take that cloud of features and sort of order them. And then as you start to build the things that are important to you, you might find, well, this is the tool, and you might focus on that and say, the rest of those things are for some other tool that integrates. So a big part of it is just to have an influence on the order that things go. And often as a developer, I find it very useful for people to take part in that process, because they'll go, it'd be really easy if this button was over here. Something really trivial. Or like this Poker Face Todd suggestion is a good example. It's like, oh yeah, in a way, I'm not thinking about that. I thought about it before, right? I made that whole time code tool. I'm all about being able to do the time code stuff. But as I'm focusing on authorization and getting these other databases working so that I can send the reply back to people and stuff, this slips off my radar. And so now I'm using the 3x5 cards and Scrum. Actually, you guys could look up Scrum. And we're going to get to them all. And you can help be a software designer just by testing the software, being familiar enough with it to give suggestions. And if you want to give a suggestion without using the software, feel free. At the moment, it's probably will still be useful because it's just the beginning. The feature set is pretty minimal at the moment on purpose. But as time passes, you'll have to use a little bit in order to make suggestions that are doable to fit the priorities incorrectly. Because you might have the best idea in the world, but if there's something sort of annoying in the way, that thing's going to have a higher priority, and you kind of have to use the tool to do that. So what I'm saying is it is a little bit of work. You become a developer if you're testing software. You have to have a mindset where you're not relying on it. You use it and you get a feel for how useful it'll be, but you can't expect it to be rock solid. But eventually we'll get to a version that is reliable, and then you use that one for the reliable part, and you still get to have influence on what the next version is going to be like you have two versions of the tool installed, or you go back and forth. And to me, this is a really important part of the idea of this particular software, which is to keep it open source and to keep it as an enabling tool for the community of people that we use it to take part, to enhance public dialogue. That's the ultimate goal. All right, so there's a new version up as we speak. I waited until it published fully, and I'm going to put another one. I think I'll go before I go back to writing. I'm going to put one up also that just has some links from the pop-up to the project homepage and directly to the issues page, because the software's on GitHub, and you can use the issue tracking system there to put in tickets, bug reports, ideas, what have you. There's also a wiki where if you want to write more essay length descriptions of what you're thinking and that kind of thing, you can write that. I don't check the wiki for changes at the moment. I will as it starts getting used more, but you can always send me a message. Really, putting a message in a video of mine pops up in that Google plus bell thing better than a PM. You can send me a PM, but I don't even know how you get to the inbox through the YouTube screens anymore. I have a link in the responder pop-up. There's a link that goes to it, and at this point I remember to go and check in there every few days. But there was a couple months where I didn't even know there still was a YouTube inbox. They moved it around and it was gone as far as I was concerned. So the best thing is to comment if I haven't seemed to notice. If you put an issue in, then you can always ping me on YouTube. Because I usually have YouTube up sometime during the day, streaming TED Talks or whatever while I work, or when I'm writing I can't listen to stuff like that so much, it distracts too much, but still I'm in there. I've been listening to music You know, there's a lot of like 5 hour Beethoven, 5 hours of Mozart. Study music, it's called. It's actually kind of a neat genre on there. Um, and I was looking up trip hop, an hour and a half, 2 hours, also labeled study music. So that's kind of an interesting genre. And that 5 hours of Beethoven, I highly recommend. Beethoven, I think. I've been listening to more classical music just to try it out last since I got to Maine, a little bit before, and I like Vivaldi also, but yeah, Beethoven. You know, it's almost cliche to like Beethoven, I guess, in a way, because he's like the most super famous. You know, but it's kind of funny. Also, Mozart, pretty good, um, pretty amazing good. But Beethoven has something about his thing. So anyway, how did I get on Beethoven? Okay. Anyway, so there's a new version of the tool up. I'll explain the version numbering system later. I decided to have a quirky one, uh, but highly functional, just as functional as a normal one. Um, okay, looks like hopefully I've got my. I had to blank out everything in my video editor, but I think it's working.